I notice all your batteries, all of them that you have on display from different manufacturers have orange. And he said, well, that's high voltage. I said, so just do or don't lick it. I'm trying to just make it real clear. The world's first Cybertruck teardown video? Well, sort of. John McElroy from Autoline Daily had a chance to go out to Caresoft, another benchmarking firm similar to Monroe and Associates. There are quite a few of those in Michigan, and he had got a chance to have a great conversation. I got a chance to have a great conversation myself today with Mark from The Tesla Life, a great channel. Mark, thanks for being here, and I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. Got it right that time. Got it right. So you've seen the video. We've all seen the video. Let's see how many people have seen it. A whole bunch. I mean, there's 1,000 comments. How many views does it have? 335,000. That doesn't surprise me. Why don't we just jump into it and see what's going on? These are human legs. Notice anything out of place about them compared to other vehicles?
Yeah, there's no floor that they're standing on inside the vehicle. They're inside the vehicle and there's no floor of the vehicle.
Yeah, that's different. And it is pretty fascinating. He'd already pulled the battery out. We've seen now, later, a similar video from Monroe and Associates where they've done the same. And this is a big deal in terms of engineering. Walk us through why this is different, why it's better. Is it better?
Yeah, they've been looking at different aspects of the vehicle as they start to take it apart, and they're starting to notice things, the things that Tesla has told us about at the beginning, such as it's similar to Model Y, whereas the Model Y now has a floor that is separate on the battery. The floor comes out or is installed with the seats on it. Everything goes into place. The Cybertruck is the same. They're using that type of architecture. But they discovered quickly that, of course, the steer-by-wire system is in the Cybertruck. And that is something completely different. They noticed that the steer-by-wire is actually powered by the 48-volt system, another brand new item that the Cybertruck has that nothing else has. And curiously enough, they also discovered that not everything electrical in the Cybertruck runs on 48 volts. There is still some 12-volt systems in the truck that the truck has to step down to run those. So that was a kind of surprise. We had all just assumed that everything was going to be 48 volt in the vehicle. And apparently there are some systems that are back to the old 12 volt.
And I knew that there were going to be a few components. I don't remember if it was Sandy who told me that, but they couldn't source all the parts. Some of the parts are meant to be 48 volt, but they just weren't ready or didn't test out. So what you got was, I think the power seat adjust was one that I'd heard months ago. And they did discuss this. It doesn't all have to be, but if you're not using it, you need to step it down. That's an opportunity to save an additional handful of dollars in coming months. And again, $10, who cares, right? Until you're making 1 million of them, and then it's $10 million, and over 10 years, that's $100 million. $10 counts. It absolutely counts. It starts to turn into real money. The neat thing, that's what Sandy explained about the floor coming out like that, was that with all those pieces going onto it, and then putting it in 1 or 2 stations instead of 12 to 14 stations, the assembly line has fewer choke points. If something goes wrong putting it in, it happens in another line where you're getting parts ready to go in. You're making the sub-assemblies separate, and then the line moves quicker. I think Sandy said 43 seconds versus 60 seconds for other car makers. That's a massive improvement in time.
Yeah, you get a 25% savings right there.
Right off the bat, you're saving money. So now we're looking under the dash. This is the steer-by-wire you were talking about, I think?
Yes, he's holding up an actual component for a regular vehicle. But the steer-by-wire, of course, doesn't require the component he's handing to John McElroy right now, it is controlled by a motor, which is shown right in this picture. So you've got that little motor, which of course is a feedback motor. So not only does Tesla have a motor to drive the steering mechanism in the front of the vehicle, they also have a feedback motor that will send vibrations back to the steering wheel to make you feel that the car is still connected by a solid pin and you can feel the road in the steering wheel. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's haptic feedback. You've been able to buy this same kind of steering wheel for video games for probably 15 years now, maybe longer. It's not new, but it is essential. If you couldn't feel the road, I think it would be very unsettling. It might feel like you're driving a 72 Coupe de Ville. I should know. I've had one. It was a very silly car. I don't understand who it was for, but I got a good deal on it.
Still in this photo, before you move, Brian,
Mhm.
you can also see that under the dash, there's some light blue coloring of plastic bits.
Yes, sir.
Apparently, the light blue is to indicate that that is the 48-volt architecture. Anything with light blue indicates that that wire or that plastic bit is got 48-volt flowing through it. So it makes it easier to just see it at a glance and understand what voltage it is.
And we're seeing tape on some of these wires as well, indicating this is 48, this is 48. Interestingly, this piece right here in the middle, do you know what that's for?
The one in the middle. No, what's that?
That is for your rear seat climate control. It goes under your floor.
Ah, that's why it's got the grommet at the bottom to fit
Yes,
into
sir.
the seat, the floor cavity to connect the vent to the floor cavity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All correct. And right here, you can see there's your casting. I have been in a couple of pretty good car accidents in my life. One, I was in the back seat of a Chevy Sprint when the driver fell asleep and drove us off the highway.
Wow.
It was pretty catastrophic. And even though it was a very small car, the engine definitely tried to come through the firewall. If you're looking at this, it really wanted to. It was interested in that decision. The car actually flipped end over end. It was not a good day. It was resulted in reconstructive surgery a year later. I'm doing fine. This was in my teens, late teens, early 20s. So bad of an accident, I can't recall. I'll say 94, 95. So this piece, if you're off-roading, are you concerned that a large branch might come through your floorboards?
Not with that ribbing. Not a chance.
Not a chance. If something comes through that, it would have speared another car all the way through and through. So these, and again, these may get lighter over time. They may find that they have been over-engineered and that they can reduce the weight and maintain the integrity. There are so many things in here. And this isn't a Detroit car. This isn't Detroit people giving love to Detroit auto. This is engineers recognizing interesting engineering. Let's jump over here. You can see up here, you've got your front crush cans, which are now part of the casting. Do you see this unusual ribbing in it?
Yeah, that does look unique.
If you look at the other side, you'll see there's ribbing that's kind of offset. As it goes farther forward, the ribbing gets more delicate so that it will crush progressively on greater impacts and not just all buckle at once.
Yeah.
So they've really thought of kind of everything. Kind of.
Another piece of information on this front is, of course, the motors that actually drive the front steering mechanism. They discovered 2 motors, not just one. So there is a redundancy built into the truck because, of course, if you lose your steering, you're going to have a bad day. It's much better to have a second motor that could take over and, of course, steer you away from danger. A lot easier than if your motor kicks out and there's nothing else to help you. At least you've got a redundant unit ready to help.
So the way these work is really clever because everything has got to be as failure-proof as possible. Your failure rate needs to be approaching 0. So what these do is one pushes and one pulls. Either one can push or pull. Either one has enough strength to do the job. If one of them fails, the other one can do all the pushing and pulling, and you'll get a notification saying you need to stop the car and get service immediately because you are about to lose steering, but you still have steering. So it is a redundancy, and every time it operates, they're both testing each other to make sure that they're pushing the right amount. If I tell you exert 10 pounds of force and I have to push 11, something's going on. And it can diagnose a failure before it happens. So
Notice that blue connector in the upper left-hand corner?
yeah.
Guess what? Easy to see, 48 volts. All we need to do is see the blue.
And again, what does orange mean? Do you remember that one?
That is high voltage from the battery itself.
I was asking this question. I at the battery show in Detroit last year, I said, I notice all your batteries, all of them that you have on display from different manufacturers have orange. And he said, well, that's high voltage. I said, so just do or don't lick it. I'm trying to just make it real clear. Engineers sometimes get me. It's not guaranteed, but they do all right. There were thoughts that they had in terms of the battery. I mean, it being this big rugged thing gives you all your structural integrity in a part of the car that it didn't used to be in.
Yeah, they also mentioned that on top of the battery, it had to be a little bit more rigid than what normally it would be. But of course, that is offset by the ease of being able to mount the seat to the structure of the battery and use it as the floor plan of the car. So it uses it for two purposes instead of one, and really the savings is there just by having to beef up with those extra ribs. It certainly is a savings when you realize that it's also the floor of the vehicle.
These cross members, what I hear you saying is these cross members add a necessary amount of rigidity, which is fine because we needed them anyway to mount the seats.
Yeah.
Which is great. Another example of Tesla getting two functions out of one part is in the Plaid's Model S and X. The air compressor in the front is also a structural support component.
Okay, I did not know that.
It's sufficiently rigid. It's already up there. It already has to be mounted. Let's use that instead of a cross member. Clever. Now, there was a complaint about the door gasket, the seal. Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, it seemed that it was bubbling in some areas, almost as if it wasn't laid or sealed properly to the opening of the door.
And that's an early production issue. That could be someone with inadequate training. That could be something that needs to be subtly redesigned. That is something that by probably now, if not next week, has been sorted out. That's a risk you run when you get the earliest models of a new vehicle or any model from somebody who only makes a handful. McLarens famously have terrible fit and finish because they just don't make enough of them to actually gain the competence before they get to the next model.
Another situation that happened with those doors as well was the pin, as you've got a photograph of it here. So you've got in the back of the vehicle, the back doors, they famously open to 90 degrees, giving you more access to the back seat. But they noticed that on the version they purchased, on the passenger side, the door would not open 90 degrees. It would on the right side. It would on the left side. It just wouldn't open on the right side. And they couldn't figure out why would they only have one door that opens 90 degrees.
And if you did, it would be on the curb side, but not the driver's side.
What did they find, Brian?
They found that they used the wrong hinge.
Yeah.
The wrong hinge. We used the one from the front door. Sorry about that. Well,
Yes.
They look the same in the parts bin. And what John McElroy suggested is a poka-yoke design, which is the Japanese art of making something so it only fits in one place. So, if your jigsaw puzzle was made up of only pieces that all were the same shape, it would be really hard to get it right. But with this kind of design suggestion, you make it so it can only go one of two ways, one way of the two ways. And also so that the back one is slightly different from if it's a different part with a different function, maybe offset the distance between the bolt holes so that you can't accidentally put it on. And they accidentally put the wrong one on. Again,
Yep.
early production. Yeah. What do you expect, guys? We're doing our best here. And then getting around to the back, boy, these castings, man, they blow my mind how big they are.
Absolutely huge. And of course, another thing they noticed with the castings is that they've all been coated as well. So they're not
Yeah.
just the plain casting, they've actually been painted in different colors depending on what was going on with the vehicle. But you can see this tan color is prevalent through most of the vehicle, and in some areas it's painted kind of flat black. So they indicated that this is probably to help with corrosion over time. Even though the casting is aluminum, corrosion does happen to aluminum, especially in salty climates.
Well, the other big issue that I haven't seen anyone address is galvanic corrosion. Stainless, if you try and put a stainless steel band on your aluminum Apple Watch, it will corrode, and vice versa. My friend went in to buy a replacement band for his Apple Watch, and they said, that one, we can't put it on that watch for you. It is the wrong material. It will cause corrosion. And this, all of the points are, I'm sure, insulated to prevent that, but this would be an additional layer of prevention that would assist in not having that kind of corrosion. In the comments, if you're a chemistry major or have a sufficient background in marine construction, maritime stuff, let me know if I totally botched that. I am happy to admit my mistakes. I've just never done any. Never made a mistake. That was a infallibility joke there. I'm not the Pope. I get it. The front here, nothing really new going on that I can think of. They did have two of them, though, right?
They did have a second vehicle there on a hoist, and what they were demonstrating was how the wheels actually turn in tandem with the back wheels. They were showing they had figured out because initially they didn't know how to make the wheels actually roll or turn when the vehicle wasn't on the ground. There's some sort of defeat device in the vehicle that when it's jacked up, it doesn't want to let you to drive it or spin the wheels or turn the wheels, which safety minded makes a lot of sense. But in this case, these professionals wanted to make it happen or make it actually do that, and they were able to find a workaround so they could show John how it actually moved in tandem with the rear wheels. And they talked a little bit about what was interesting was the actual dual wheel steering is not operated immediately when you put it into gear, because they found that if you're in a parking spot and you're in close with two other vehicles, you're in between, if the all-wheel steering works and you crank the wheel, you're going to clip one of those vehicles on the way out because the vehicle turns a lot quicker than you're expecting. So the ingenious solution is to what, Brian?
Put in a delay. Artificially delay it so you get the first couple feet and then it turns.
Exactly. Which is a great solution.
There was a great video. I don't remember who it was now. It might have been Bearded Tesla Guy. I don't remember. I'm sorry to whoever it was, where they had an inexperienced driver and they were trying to pull out of the supercharger stall, but he cranked the wheel too soon. And now all of a sudden I'm going to hit stuff on both sides. I don't know how to get out of my parking spot. It took him 3-4 tries. It was hilarious. I might not have found it so funny if it was me, but it wasn't me, Mark. That's the important thing. Got to remember that part. I think we've covered some of the important points here. It's still exciting. It's been months and I'm still excited. I don't know what to say beyond that. There you can see the rear wheel turning in. We have heard that the production models that are going out do not have the 10 degrees of rear steer that the demo models did, that the early reviewers got, but that there will be an update coming, and it's not over the air. It would be a physical update to replace some part that is limiting the rear steer to 3 degrees instead of 10. I don't have more details on that. That's what Kyle from Out of Spec said when he picked up his truck.
That is unusual for Tesla, is it not? I guess having to bring the vehicles back to replace a physical part is something not great for Tesla. But if it's something that requires the vehicle to be in a safe range to start with, I guess that's what you have to do.
That's what you have to do. And if we wait for perfection, we'll never release it.
Bingo.
And that's the same thing with those 12-volt parts that are stepped down. Last thing I wanted to address, and I'm going to address this in just a second, but first I should say, guys, if you get a chance, you got to go head on over to my buddy Mark's channel there, The Tesla Life. They do a weekly podcast. It's so much fun. And it's available on the internet for free. I don't know. I don't know how they make money. It's crazy. So, so the neat thing is, I had a chance to talk with Bob from Bob's Bibs and Bobs about the cost of 48-volt parts. Now, Bob is not one person. Bob is a bunch of people. And so I've got a variety of sources. One is a retired airbag engineer. And I asked him, would 48-volt parts be more expensive? And he, in his opinion, it's not a fact, it's an opinion because he wasn't in that division. He said, out of the gate, probably. Over time, there would be almost no difference because the cost of the components would be almost identical. The wires would be a little thinner, and that's it. So for parts, over time, once the orders are sufficiently large, which they may already be, the parts are going to cost the same as they would anyways. I also had a chance to talk to someone who makes the parts, and their answer was, I don't do the billing, so I don't know, but I would be very surprised if the pricing is higher than any other part. So thanks to you guys for giving me the skinny there, and I appreciate the inside scoop. Not much of a scoop. The answer is kind of what we thought, which is good news.
With volume comes better pricing.
So easy. So guys, what did we miss? What do we misunderstand? Let us know in the videos. I try and help you get a little smarter, and in the comments, you got to make me a whole lot smarter because I got so much to learn. Everybody else, like, subscribe, smack thumbs, your own, your neighbors. I'm not particular. Just do it. It doesn't cost you anything. Oh, and that reminds me, I was going to do this, is go ahead and smack a like right there for the old Autoline. So yeah, like, subscribe, you know what you're doing, and stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots, perhaps in Michigan, perhaps at Plaid Day, where we will be doing test drives, demo drives, not test drives, but you can ride in a Cybertruck that's absolutely stomping on the pedal. So I'm looking forward to that.
That'll be fun.